Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking one of the most interesting phenomenons in modern media, really. It's a show that basically came out of nowhere and just completely shook up the whole political news scene.
So, get this. In its very first week, this independent show from hosts Krystal and Saagar and Enjeti just shot straight to #1 on the charts. I mean, they took down media giants that have been around for decades. It's pretty wild.
Okay, so you have to ask, right, how in the world did that happen? And what does their crazy success tell us about, the state of media today, about politics, and maybe most importantly, what our audience is really looking for?
So, to understand breaking points, you've got to start with the hosts themselves. And, on paper, they could not be more different. We're talking about two people from what feel like totally separate political planets.
All right, so on one side, you've got Krystal. She ran for Congress as a Democrat, right? She hosted a show on the liberal network MSNBC and was a huge backer of Bernie Sanders. Then on the other side, you've got Saagar and Enjeti. His background is in conservative media. He worked at Tucker Carlson's Daily Caller and was a fellow at the Hudson Institute, which is known for being pretty hawkish on foreign policy.
So for years, their careers were on these completely separate, even opposing tracks. But then, in 2018, something changed. Their paths crossed when they got paired up to co-host a show called Rising over at The Hill. And get this, just 3 years later, they took this huge leap of faith, left that gig, and went out on their own to launch Breaking Points.
So what is the secret sauce here? What's the formula? What is this magnetic pole that brings these two, political opposites together and somehow attracts this huge, super dedicated audience? Let's get into it.
Well, the whole show is really built on this one core idea: anti-establishment populism. It's a very intentional strategy. The goal is to kind of ignore the usual left versus right food fights and instead zoom in on the places, and this is the key part, where both sides actually agree.
And this common ground, it's not some abstract political theory. It's really rooted in the real world. Saagar and Enjeti put it pretty well himself. He says their focus is on those kitchen table issues, the things that actually affect the lives of most Americans. Stuff they argue gets completely ignored by mainstream media, which is often more obsessed with who's up and who's down in Washington.
And right here, this is the sweet spot. This is the ideological turf where their partnership really works. It's all built on a shared distrust of these huge, powerful institutions that, frankly, a lot of people on both sides feel have let them down. We're talking about Wall Street, big tech, and yeah, even the political parties themselves.
But look, trying to build a bridge like this, it's a really controversial thing to do. And their whole project has sparked some seriously polarized reactions. They've got diehard fans on one side and some absolutely ferocious critics on the other.
For their fans, the show is way more than just news. It's seen as this vital, almost necessary project. They see it as a real, honest attempt to find some common ground, to get a real conversation going in a country that feels like it's just being ripped to shreds.
But to a lot of folks on the left, that bridge leads straight to nowhere. Critics will call Krystal a bad faith actor, or even a useful idiot who's just giving cover to the right wing. And they often bring up this controversy surrounding a political action committee she ran. The accusation was that it ended up lining her own pockets more than it helped the candidates it was supposed to be supporting.
And this observation from a viewer really hits on something important. It suggests the show's true compass doesn't point left or right. It points anti-power. As they point out, the target of their criticism seems to change depending on who's in charge, tapping into this really powerful anti-government feeling out there.
And this, right here, this is really the core intellectual pushback against the whole project. Critics like Nathan J. Robinson say that this whole populist alliance is basically a dangerous fantasy, that it's only possible because they have to intentionally ignore these huge fundamental disagreements on life and death issues like racism, climate change, and immigration. But it's not just the politics that are shaking things up. The way Breaking Points is structured, its very business model, is a direct challenge to how traditional media has always worked. Think about it. Cable news networks have these insane operating costs, huge studios, foreign bureaus, massive staffs. But Breaking Points? They have this super lean, direct-to-consumer model, And it lets them build an audience that can actually compete with cable news, but for a tiny, tiny fraction of the cost.
And here's why that matters so much to them. They argue that this financial independence is their editorial independence. Since they're funded directly by their audience, they say they have the freedom to criticize absolutely anyone, no matter how powerful they are. They don't have to worry about losing insider access or making some big corporate advertiser angry.
Which, brings us back to the big question at the heart of the whole breaking points phenomenon. Is this incredibly successful experiment a real blueprint for a new kind of media, one that can actually help bridge our divides? Or is that bridge just an illusion, built over cracks in our society that are just way too deep to paper over?